Can a chip off the old block help supersize your business? Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. These are some little chips of petrified wood off a big piece of petrified wood I happen to have out in the garden that is too big to carry in and show. So I just grabbed, there were a couple little chips off the block, which totally represents this idiom, this expression today. A chip off the block, of course, is an idiom and an expression that dates back to 270 BC with Theocritus's idols or something. But the idea of it's been around for centuries, kind of like yesterday's idiom. And it, of course, means that the pieces of something resemble the whole that it came from. So a sculpture or a piece of wood or a boat or something made out of a tree or something that is chiseled out like a sculpture would represent the piece of stone that it came from, just like this piece of petrified wood represents the old giant piece of petrified wood, the tree that it originally came from. It's actually really beautiful. I'd like to shellac it or somehow preserve it, but it's fun to have it be in the garden and just watch how nature interacts with it and how it changes and looks. So this also applies to people, right? Oftentimes we are compared to people that we are related to. I resemble my dad, for example. I looked a lot like my dad. I'm also a lot like my father in many ways in terms of our career paths, our beliefs, and our ideas. My dad passed away several years ago, but I am still very much a chip off the old block. This means that we might resemble people in appearance, in behavior, in our look, in our interests, in our mannerisms. If you were to meet all of my sisters and I and my mom in one room and at a gathering, you would definitely notice a family resemblance between all of us. Our mannerisms, our behavior, the way we talk, the way we move our hands. We are all talker with our hands, things like that. We have common traits that have been passed down either by genetics and heredity or by exposure in our environment, right? The power of our environment to mold and shape who we are is huge, and sometimes we underestimate that. The biggest thing with this whole topic of being a chip off the old block, and I talked about this during the pandemic, I think it was September of 2020, I talked about this idiom as well, and I talked about on a more personal level how it impacts our business. But the thoughts that came to mind today as we're talking about this idiom and how does it relate to building and growing and supersize our business, our environment, the people around us have a huge impact on the results we get, the way we think, our behaviors, our opinions, our thoughts and feelings about things, including ourselves. There's this whole imposter syndrome thing that I never realized till I came online, but I guess there's this whole imposter syndrome thing. I think it was called competition when I was in the offline world, and we were always competing against each other, especially in corporate America, to climb the corporate ladder. So we were competing against each other, but we never felt like we weren't qualified or that we were imposters. When you go online, there's this whole thing about ramping up, comparing yourself to others on steroids, because everything is so visible and so immediate and so superficial and artificial in many instances that we sometimes fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others much more than we would offline. I have a bunch of stories about that and about myself and other people comparing ourselves to the online presence or branding or personal branding or persona that people portray online. And it's really just marketing, just like a reality television show. It's scripted. I know I keep blowing people's minds when I say, oh yeah, reality TV, the news is scripted. It's all scripted, but people don't necessarily believe or know that. They get all wrapped up in the story and the tales that are being told and the way they're being marketed on television, and they forget that it's all for entertainment purposes, even though some of it ends up being molding and manipulating and becomes part of people's environments. But the biggest thing to remember with respect to this and how we can use it to build and grow our business is as we get older, we understand more and more this to be true. We get to choose what aspects of our environment, what aspects of the people that we have characteristics in common with, or beliefs or thoughts or feelings in common with. We get to choose and decide what is for us and moving our business in the direction we want it to go, and what doesn't serve us anymore. A lot of us grow up with conflicting beliefs. And those beliefs, until we reconcile them, they will stop us and hold us in a pattern of repeating the same behaviors, the same, we'll do the same things over and over again, kind of like the definition of insanity, wondering why we're not getting different results until we realize that on a subconscious level, we have things that are competing against each other. Our sense and our desire for security is beating up against our desire and safety, is butting heads with our desire to supersize and grow our business. And until that gets resolved by us, because no one else is going to do it for us, we will continue to struggle. And then all of a sudden, when we resolve conflicting beliefs like that, it's like the floodgates open and success becomes a lot more easy, or growing and building and supersizing our business becomes a lot easier. So thinking about imposter syndrome, thinking about comparing ourselves to others, thinking about competition, I think that the biggest lesson I've learned in all of those areas and all those topics, and as far as environment, is I have the personal responsibility and the personal power to choose what I want to be, who I want to show up as, how I want to interact with other people in the world. And it is up to me. What's right for me might not be right for you. What's right for you is probably not right for me in many instances, but it's up to us to just be ourselves and create the life and the business that we want. So I am definitely a chip off the old block. I am proud to be a chip off the old block. Both my mom and my dad and my grandmas and my grandpas and my sisters and my friends, I pick and choose the characteristics that they have that I want to model, and I model those. And I actually don't just model them, I be them. And by just being myself, I create the world and the life and the businesses that I want to see in the world. And you can do the same thing too. I love this idiom. I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts and experience with this idiom. Share in the comments below. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow with another relationship-related idiom for the month of June. Have an awesome day.